The Penre Papers. A Journey Through the Multiverse. The First Level of Learning. http://wespenre.com. Soulution Section. Soulution Paper Number 2, Earth as Real Estate. By Penre, Monday, July 25, 2011. Part 2. 6. The Purpose of the Human Experience. The purpose is for us as a bio-mind at this time is to abdicate multidimensionality and to understand we are not alone and isolated. This is an experiment where we agreed to believing we are isolated and to build a probable world where we forgot that we are connected to all things, where humanity forgot that we live again and again, where we perceive what happened as something long ago instead of sharing the present, and where the future is often some ambiguous, strange place that holds a lot of fear. This is a noble venture, and beings who agreed to take part of this experiment, which is the entire human race, are pretty brave. This venture has been going on for many thousands of years here on Earth. This experiment sprang out of the destructions that occurred on this planet about 13,000 years ago, half of a great year being a full galactic year cycle, which is 26,000 years. We are talking about the destruction of Atlantis and what came about after that destructive event, which had its climax then, but had many things happening that were building up to it. Destruction can't happen unless it's created, it doesn't happen by itself. This planet is a trading group, a playground, a place where consciousness is allowed to express itself. It's a library, and what is a library? It's a place where things are borrowed but must be returned. And if it's not returned, there is a fee. That's a good analogy. All the animals, all the plants, most of them were not seated like is normal on most other planets, referring to those planets that are not living libraries, but life was brought here from a huge variety of planets throughout cosmos. Thus, most of these life forms exist elsewhere, the lion, the butterfly, the rose, the bull, the cow, you name it. This is also where we meet up with our soul friends and soul mates. The Pleiadians even say that the 21st century is a time where we connect with old friends, it's like a reunion. We are meeting with people we are feeling a great connection with. Within the next few years, the world will tumble around us and many will be in shock, even those who thought they wouldn't. However, it's the end of what doesn't work anymore and the building of something new. And to build something needs to be destroyed. Old paradigms, old ways of building civilizations must die and new roads for the future need to be paved. These are very exciting times if we can journey between the turmoil. Things we have taken for granted will disappear, and many of us need to be self-sufficient, go back to gardening, barter, smaller communities, return to nature, big changes, because we are spoiled even in our prison state. Some will wish themselves back to how it is now, and even though cities will still be there, where they don't get destroyed, and technology will develop, not everybody is going to be welcomed there, either. They are building a new human race that is more like half machine, half human. It's our job, here and now, to be the light in the dark, the catalyst for those in darkness, to have fun and feel joy, create meaning to our lives and live it fully. It's our job to raise the vibration, until a new world emerges, which is beautiful and welcoming. And when most people have made their choices, this earth is going to split in two, the machine kingdom and that of spiritual/biological evolvement. Many worlds may emerge from that as people's desire differ, but this will be the main split. Our purpose is to break out of linear time after have experienced it fully, and go back to being multi-D. When we do, the third density experience is finished. 7. The Pleiadians and the complexity of power. There is a reason the Pleiadians call this time the nanosecond, 1987 to 2012. The renegade group, who is channeling through Barbara Marciniak, are from our future. They are also our creator gods in some terms, or more precisely, their ancestors were our creators a long time ago, together with other creator gods. The future of these beings, their present, is apparently compared to a living hell. This group, which is rapidly expanding, has realized that their own present is what it is because of decisions we made here and now in the nanosecond. On their timeline we made decisions which directly affected them. They are, in certain terms, us in the future. By coming here and speaking to us through a channel, they are hoping that we, or some of us, are making other decisions that will also help them free their karma and move into another probable future, which is more pleasant to live in. How is this possible? It's possible by teaching us all that was hidden from us. By learning this, we also have more conscious choices which may lead humanity in another direction, on another timeline, which will be the same as the one the Pleiadian experiences. When asked, they say there is a certain chance that they will be erased in the process, but it's worth it. Consciousness lives on. As the reader may realize, when groups like the Pleiadians, and they are not the only ones, start teaching humans about our true ancestry, our hidden history and the fact that we've been lied to, it doesn't sit well with certain other aliens. Still, there is little they can do to stop the truth from coming out. For those who are familiar with this Pleiadian group know that they are helping us to self-help. They are doing service to others by teaching us to think outside the box. They don't always provide direct answers, and the meanings are multi-leveled, but their teachings are always coherent. They have been channeling for 23 years as of this writing, and their early work is still coherent with what they are teaching now. I find this quite impressive and comforting. The fact is that without the wisdom they are sharing with us, we may have made decisions in this nanosecond which would have thrown most of us into the machine world. However, there are other teachings that take on where the Pleiadians leave off and are still intermingled with their information. The Guardian Alliance is one of them. Still, the latter is much more complex and may or may not have reached the same amount of people, and on the other hand perhaps not filled the exact same purpose. As usual, I suggest you take part of all this information, like I have, and make up your mind in what direction you want to go. I have my direction pretty clear, but it's all of our responsibility to decide which road each of us wants to travel. Before the Pleiadians started their mission here on Earth in 1988, there was very little material in this capacity. We had the Ra material, and the Seth material before that, and a few others as well, but the Pleiadians started a flood of channeling from other beings, who became inspired for many good and not so good reasons. The mission we are on is about freedom by freeing up the human DNA and make other probabilities. L. Ron Hubbard once said, "A culture is only as great as its dreams, and its dreams are dreamed by artists." This is quite true, and in that respect we all have to learn how to become artists and dreamers who can dream up our future. Like we discussed earlier, darkness is what is hidden and light is what is in the open. We, who have studied and researched the powers of darkness for years, have still only touched the surface. Unfortunately, many good researchers stop where the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers end. Or the Catholic Church, the Jewish bankers, the Zionists, etc. Others blame everything on Satan. No wonder this entity has so much power. If he was never meant to exist, he most certainly does now, because so many people continue creating him. Any and all of the above are just scapegoats or pawns in the game. When we reach the upper echelons of human power, there is always non-physical beings involved, or those who reside in the next, unseen dimension or density. To those who are looking for a single being responsible for the mess we're in, you will not find him. There is no single black magician in power of this planet or beyond. It's so much more complex and multi-layered. The ET issue in itself is very complex if we for a moment put our attention towards those whose imperatives clash with our survival. Even here most researchers are stopping at a certain point. They find an ET race through their research which quite obviously is pulling the strings of mankind and think that's it. No, it's not. There are multiple races in control here, different factions of governments serve different ETs, physical and non-physical. Some of these races work together, something which is known in some cases, but not always. Intelligence work is done on this as we speak, and some races work alone. Others are just bands or factions of an otherwise quite benevolent race and have thus given the benevolent ones bad reputation. It's complex, and one of my next tasks is to separate out ET species from each other to see who is working together with whom, what their imperatives are, and how that affect us humans. This needs to be done, if only to understand what is going to happen in the near future and learn who is who in the cosmic drama. Some may say it's unimportant if we anyway are going to create another type of reality, and that is true, but the levels of deception are many, and the more educated we can be, the better prepared, and we are less likely to being fooled, tempted, or sidetracked. 8. Regaining sovereignty of mind. No matter what I say in these papers, there are always those whom from pure excitement would like to welcome the gods once again because they are curious. Just beware of that, the deception will be grandiose. People will feel they have no choice but to take sides in the battle. Others, who have had enough of fighting and violence, like myself, will choose neither side and go in another, totally different direction. But will the direction I'm choosing be safe and free from turmoil? Most probably not. We will all have our share of shake-ups, but it's our attitude towards what is happening that is the key. If something unwanted comes my way, instead of cursing and blaming something or somebody for it, I ask my higher self what the learning process is for me in all this chaos. What can I gain from what is happening? Any challenge will take me to a new level, just like it has thus far, and I will work on riding through the hard times on a wave of consciousness, duck and slide between the obstacles and come out finer than fine on the other end. But it's up to me, not some creator gods. It's my evolvement, and I am learning from my own mistakes and from what I'm studying and practicing. I do not need the A.A.M.I. to guide me. It's not that times will not be rough ahead of us, they will. A new financial collapse is around the corner, we will feel the effects from the incoming Nibiru, alien controllers will furiously try to hold on to what they have, as will the humans serving them. People will meet their demons, karma, faster than they can imagine and have to be able to learn very quickly, or things will get overwhelming. 8.1 Owning your sexuality. You have heard about it in the news, it's getting more and more common that these things come out. Priests are doing it, government officials are doing it, common people are doing it. I am talking about incest, promiscuous behavior, sodomizing bodies, mother having sex with sons, fathers having sex with sons and daughters. Sexual slave trade. Where do you think this all comes from? You guess it, Anunnaki genes. This is exactly what the Anunnaki were engaged at, wasn't it? Among humans, it's more common than we want to believe. Many poor children have been abused sexually by family members. Pornography is everywhere, and by engaging in all this, or parts of it, will tune people into the lower astral planes where entities will happily attach to the person to live out unusual sexual acts and behavior. Then it becomes an addiction the person has a hard time getting rid of. It's supposed to be as hard as with any heavy drug, if not harder. Sexuality is very powerful. Free your mind, if you need to, from any degrading sexual behavior and don't participate in it if you want to evolve from here. The sexual act between two people who feel attraction to each other, who love each other and feel they are on a similar wavelength can accomplish a lot through the sexual act and through the orgasm. It's a merging of two souls, who share an extremely powerful sensation that affects their higher self and even cosmos as a whole. It's a portal that opens to other realms. Depending on how you use your sexuality, you will open your mind to realms that can be enormously supportive to your growth, or they can be very destructive. It's powerful either way. These are highly karmic times for humanity, and the struggle we're going through is our struggle. We need to live and learn. An old world is dying and is at the same time giving birth pains to a new. This is what we are experiencing, and no one else, who is not earthbound, should interfere with this process, in my opinion. There may be exceptions from this rule, and perhaps someone is landing for a good reason, but I would have a lot of questions to ask this race before I accepted them as a part of our development. And when it really comes down to it, why would a positively oriented ET race land and present themselves to humanity in the news media or to the government? If an alien race is positive towards mankind, they would not interfere with our process like that. It's my firm belief that if an alien landing by positively oriented ETS is presented by the mainstream media, it is not to be taken seriously. What they present is not going to be the truth. 8.2 The migration into virtual realities. Now, for the near future, things are going to change rapidly when comes to technology. Things are going to be built on holograms, holographic inserts into this reality, both openly so and covertly. Sometimes we will not know the difference. The whole universe, the Matrix, is a hologram in itself, but we're talking holograms within holograms here. We have already mentioned the machine kingdom, and the devices will be more sophisticated year by year for some time before it levels out. What is fashionable and astounding today is Stone Age next year. I am exaggerating a little bit, but you get the point. There's going to be great pressure to keep up with technology and go get the latest. The younger generation, many who are here because of technological karma from the Atlantic era, will love this new technology, and show jaw-dropping brilliance in the speed of learning these new inventions, which of course are not new at all but given to the human government through TTP. It's like they were born with the knowledge. The older generation, on the other hand, will not be able to catch up, because their brains are not wired to understand these things, and they will be lost in the new technological society. They will have no idea what their own kids and grandkids are talking about. Already now we see children disappear into the virtual world and they can walk around like zombies from place to place, while constantly texting or using some other new device. Many of them are not aware of their surroundings and do not appreciate what is growing around them, the animal life, the smells, the beauty of the real world. We will have a few very lost generations ahead of us, playing out their karma. They are all here to learn, and some of them will, while others will be part of the future where they are building the new Atlantis, based on advanced technology. Will our future generations be so lost that their consciousness totally disappears into the virtual reality that they can make the cartoons alive and live among them? Will they become the hero in their own computer game by selling their consciousness to the software they just bought? And what will the implications of this be? People are giving their minds away. The biological body they were born with becomes a machine which pushes buttons so that the consciousness can live in the virtual reality. People won't even need to have real sex. Instead, they disappear into the software and have cyber sex, always the way they want it. At first, they may even experience orgasms within the software and in the biological body at once. Then, as this addiction continues, well, forget the biological body. I know this is unreal to many and too way out there for plenty, but step back and look at it, it is already starting to happen. Look at your children and compare them to your generation if you are 40 years old or above. How do you think the next generation will be? And the one after that? Still, it is our responsibility now, and parents and grandparents, having the knowledge and experience we do, to educate and raise our kids as kids and not as biological machines. If we let them loose, whose fault is it? Just because the neighbor's kid is sitting before a computer all day instead of being outside and play, would that make it okay for your kid to do the same? Show them the value of nature, of life in a biological body, the beauty of creation, show them who they are. If you do all this, and the kid still turns out to ignore you, he or she is probably having some great karmic issues that need to be resolved by the person himself, and there's not much you can do than to be there is necessary. If you as a parent is not being respected and taken seriously when you are giving advice that are life-sustaining, you shouldn't push it. They may be our children, but they are not us. Everybody is on their own path, facing their own obstacles in the learning process, and that can't successfully be interfered with. What we want to steer them away from is the strong influence from their environment. We want to teach them how to think for themselves and use critical thinking in their daily life, something that is not even taught in school anymore, although it was in the 1800s. If that's not successful, at least we tried. As frustrating as it may be sometimes, we are not here to save people from themselves. We are here to grow and help others grow by being examples and be of service when help is asked for. However, help needs to be directed towards helps to self-help, and this is important. Too many people misunderstand the term service to others. They think that when they are spiritually evolved, they must do whatever another person asks for, even if it means it brings the helper down. No, no, no. We are not here to be taken advantage of, or let others drain our energy because they don't have much of their own. We always want the ones we help, family members or others, to be willing to ask themselves the questions: how can the situation I'm in benefit me? What can I learn from this experience? Why does it happen to me? How did I instigate it? Whatever situation they are in which they need help, these are the questions you ultimately want them to ask themselves, once the urgent situation is handled. This is help to self-help. We are not here to sacrifice ourselves. Again, if the person ignores your advice, you need to tell him or her that you have already helped them in a way you believe would truly assist them. If that shows not to be helpful, you did what is expected of you, that's all you can do, and let go. I want this information out to the public, expressed in as simple way as it is possible, because it is so incredibly important. There are others who have touched these subjects as well, but the information I've taken part of is getting quite technical about it, which defeats the whole purpose. We need to be clear in our communication so everybody can understand. I say it again and again. We can't sit in some lofty tower and use words that are buried deep down in the most exclusive dictionaries and think we can change the world. No one has time to sit and read complicated papers, which contain valuable information and only understand every second or third word. I started reading some interesting stuff from another author and researcher, whom had looked into our old ET history and the challenges we are facing when comes to artificial intelligence. However, it was written in a complicated language, which bothered me, but I continued. A few paragraphs down, the author admitted he was using complicated language, but told the reader to suck it up more or less, and use a dictionary. I stopped reading right there. That's the height of arrogance, and authors and researchers with this kind of attitude are wasting our time. Don't bother with them, and find something that resonates and is readable instead. 9. The collapse of time. What we are seeing now is time collapsing into itself. Timelines are merging, and this is affecting everything on our Earth, all parallel Earths and all probable Earths. The Mayan people, whom had extended knowledge from their connection with the Pleiades, Sirius/Nibiru and other star systems, ended their calendar at winter solstice, 2012. It has been interpreted as the end of the world, or the end of the world as we know it. These are indeed the end times, but not the end of everything. It's the end of a cosmic cycle, which lasts for about 26,000 years, a great year. When this happens, energies merge, time is speeding up to finally collapse, leading to the end of a cycle or an era, and a new begins. The transition is not going to be an easy one for many people, especially for those who refuse to let go of the old. They will be the ones with the toughest challenges, and many people will not make it through. Of course, we are all spiritual beings, so we can't really die, but our bio-minds can. When time collapses, new realities will be born out of the old, which is also the meaning of the symbolic phoenix bird, who raised out of its own ashes. Out of the ashes will spring a planet split in different factions, where like-minded stick together and create their own reality. The rebirth will be gradually, and not in form of any rapture or such, where people wake up one day and are transferred to some lofty heaven. No one will transfer us anywhere, no God will call the chosen ones and condemn the rest to hell. We earn our reality by how much we have learned and how flexible we were to change our belief systems. The latter is the most important, because when it all comes down to it, it is all about belief systems. Like when you were a child, perhaps you could create all these imaginary worlds inside of yourself, and when you read a good book, you could identify and create your own reality in your mind, expanding on the concept in the book. This is vibration, this is creation, the power of the mind. This is why it's so important to be sovereign and let no one else be in charge of you and your mind. No one owns you and no one has the right to force you to do something against your will. It's part of the initiation to be able to master this. There are old benevolent creator gods who are watching the evolution of the species they once created. They know that there are those who are ready to move to a parallel Earth to create a new world, with new memes, belief systems, where their lives are of higher moral and ethical value than the one they leave, where nature and man becomes one in symbiosis, and plants, animals, and humans can interact and communicate. It's not going to be a utopia in the sense that there are no obstacles or counter-intentions. We are still in need of such things, but the challenges will be on another level and more positively oriented. For those who choose this new reality, which we call the fourth density, there is no longer any need for extreme evil to work as catalysts for us to learn. Instead, we learn from each other and our environment, because we will be more psychic and telepathic. Those who can comprehend this kind of reality, where life is less serious and less dense, and are picturing it in their minds, thinking that this is their new home, are ready to move on. Now, if you are one of those, you already have raised your vibration above the masses, and your task is now to remain the keeper of frequency to the best of your ability. Claim your mind as your own, keep your dreams alive and expand on them. Be your own artist and create your reality inside yourself and paint it on a giant fourth density palette. Put no effort there, just light thoughts containing love and passion and pictures of what you want. If the world around you is starting to fall apart, learn not to be afraid and not to feel anxious about it. Know that you are safe, like an island in a stormy ocean. Ride the wave and welcome the changes, because if you learn from what is coming your way and have the attitude that this is a high learning curve, but an exciting one, and see opportunities in all events, if you can do this, you are a safe haven for yourself and others. Feel joy and pleasure, just like you could when you were a child, and play. Children, until they get really caught up in the school system, are highly multidimensional and vibrate above the frequency fence. That's why it's so important for the PTB to have mind-controlled parents who tell them how to live within the frequency fence and get trapped. Have fun, in spite of what is happening. Do what excites you. If life gets overwhelming at times, do something else for a while which you normally feel is fun to get a chance to discharge yourself. You may be tired and feel resistance from doing so, but once you've started, the positive energies connected with the activity will start taking over. And meditation and breathing exercises are incredible tools. Listen to the most uplifting music you know, be it classical or some of the New Age. The German New Age musician, Duder, is a great inspiration. I know we live busy lives, because it's the sign of the times, but when the wheels start spinning faster and faster, what we, who understand what is happening, need to do is to slow down by any means. Don't get caught up and swallowed by the pace of your environment. There are exercises for this too, which I will write down in the cognitive section of this website. Again, I want to emphasize that machines and technology are not bad in themselves. All civilizations come to the point where we are right now. We have developed technology of which some can enhance us and help us through the day, but now it's time to find the balance. The trick is to be aware enough to understand that machines have their own consciousness, and if we develop them to be more powerful than us, society will take a direction which for most people is not desirable. Today we are on this dangerous road where tomorrow must have a better developed technology than today. Instead of being all about raising consciousness, society is all about raising the level of technology, and that's where the path gets dangerous. If we knew where to stop and went back to nature to a large degree, we would be fine and would have passed our initiation as human beings, but instead we're in for a split of humanity and of Earth. This is not the first time this has happened to a planet and its beings, but it's a sign that we are playing with tools we are not mature enough to handle. In the universe there are rules for machines, believe it or not. With too much machine, life loses its vitality. It's not that it's wrong, but do we want to be cyborgs? When you have problems with a body part today, they give you medicine or a heart transplant, a living heart from another human being who donated that body part. Tomorrow they exchange your injured or diseased body part with machine parts. And if you are genetically prone to getting breast cancer, they may just as well exchange your breasts with a machine body part which can't get cancer. It will be very absurd to the extreme, but the research is there already today. No one out there in the multiverse is going to judge a machine world, but it's a world out of balance. Like the Pleiadians say, if you build a world out of chocolate, guess what? It's going to melt. Pleiadian Lecture, October 16 to 17, 2010, The Great Recess Expands CD number 3, Track 9. 10. The War Over Real Estate and the Human Factor. The reader has probably had the feeling that this paper is building up to something, and it is. We have mentioned the A.A.M.I. and the royal family from their species, who came down to earth and then were called the Anunnaki, those who from heaven to earth came, or the Nephilim, the fallen angels of the Bible. I want to tackle this subject from many angles, because with time, I believe more and more that many of our ET problems may actually stem from them and branch out from them. They are what we call the spiders in the web. I am not saying all ET problems we have are the Anunnaki's responsibility, but still, they are tricking us into merging into a new world order and a one-world government. Of course, they tell us it's not going to be what conspiracy theorists claim, that it's going to be a dictatorship, but that it's going to be heaven on earth. Read the Bible, it's all in there. Here is part of the story of what really happened when the Anunnaki came, according to the Pleiadians. According to Sitchin and others, Alelu, the former king of A.A.M.E. Nibiru, was fleeing for his life after a coup on the home planet where Anu took over and became king of A.A.M.E. What is either not told in the cuneiform stone tablets from Sumeria, or Sitchin withheld it, is that Earth was not inhabited only with primitive human beings, animals, and plants. This was a living library under construction, and the creator gods were here at the time. Some of them were insect-like in appearance, others were reptilian-like or bird-like. The Pleiadian renegade group, whom are channeled by Barbara Marciniak, are descending from the bird-like and the reptilians. If we look at the drawings of ancient cultures in Egypt, South America, and North America, we will see signs of the birds and the reptiles. Why do you think native Indians wear feathers? Also, I've noticed something else that the reader may, or may not, have seen too. If you live in the Western world and are surrounded by mostly white people, you can see that we look slightly different. Some people are bird-like in their structure, with long limbs, thin bone structure, with quick, bird-like movements. I've found these people, and I know a few, being very open and spiritual in nature, often loners because they think outside the box, considered a little weird or off by the mainstream. Then we have others who look more reptilian-like, others look like frogs, bears, cats, dogs. We have all kinds of features, and it's very interesting to notice. The ancient creator gods were many in numbers and came from many different star systems and galaxies. If we are observant, we can see their features and traits in humans today, because it's embedded in the DNA. The Asian people, who are more of a hive community, were seeded to a large degree by the Greys who worked together with the A.A.M.I. We can clearly see the resemblance in their outlook. At one time, birds and reptiles worked together, other times they fought. We like to think of creator gods as some angelic beings who do no wrong and were next to some perfect god in appearance and in nature. This was not the case. Some were warlike, others peaceful, some were both. Like we discussed before, just because someone has a great knowledge, it doesn't mean they have great spiritual awareness. The central race and those working directly with them are almost perfectly spiritually evolved, but those who came later may not always be. When a larger group of Anunnaki landed to take over real estate Earth, due to its incredible resources, which were both native to the planet, and had been seeded and planted by the original creator gods, there were, as we've mentioned before, already highly evolved humans on the planet, living together with other, less evolved beings. These highly evolved humans were also interacting with the original creator gods in a peaceful and constructive way. They did not know war at that point. The Anunnaki brought down war to the living library and had soon taken over the real estate. As we know, they are brilliant geneticists of their own, but there were those who wanted them to be expelled from the Creator God Club due to that they didn't value life. They are, like the Pleiadians say, uninformed, which means they don't understand the whole picture of reality, in spite of their knowledge of DNA and how to seed a planet. At least two vital things are missing in their own bio-mind: true love and compassion. These two terms have blended together in this species into passion. They seem unable to feel deep love, not to mention unconditional love. They are, what we call in metaphysics, service to self. Anunnaki women, like Inanna, is a typical example. She was very sexual and passionate, but her sexuality and love was only in service to self. These beings feed off our emotions. This is one big secret they never told us, and not even today, when they are directly in contact with certain human scientists on this planet, do they tell us this. The A.A.M.I. have, if we are to believe the Pleiadians, set up devices on Earth that can broadcast and magnify the emotional turmoil on this planet. That turmoil is sent to them, and it sustains them in some way. I have reason to believe that this species have outposts elsewhere in this solar system and that some of these outposts are still guarded by them in real time. One of these outposts is the Moon. Sitchin even says that the Moon is not native to this solar system, but is one of Nibiru's old moons, which was dropped from its orbit around the huge red planet during one of its crossings. Therefore, it shouldn't come as a surprise if the A.A.M.I. claim our Moon as theirs. One of the unofficial Apollo missions filmed the following on the Moon, something that looks like a city, but I have reason to believe they are giant antennas, and that they have everything to do with monitoring Earth. It would be interesting to see if we could find a corresponding device somewhere on Earth. We certainly have a lot of other clues around us that we are so used to that we don't even reflect over them. For example, take countries like Pakistan, and Anatolia, old name for Turkey, and these are just two examples. What does AN stand for? It stands for an Or Anu, the king of the Anunnaki. 11. Opening of Stargates to let the A.A.M.I. in. In 2011, there are still people on Earth who treat these people as gods with capital G. They even call them gods, or Götter in German, and they can't wait until they come back, so we can experience heaven on Earth. And these people are reading history, the same history I have read, coming to totally different conclusions. Neil Freer is absolutely correct when he says we urgently need to break the gods' spell. These are extraterrestrials, not gods. That's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 is that they are not our creators. I believe we are dangerously misled by Marduk, Ningishzida, the Enlil, and others of the clan that they created us out of poorly developed apes, enhanced our DNA and thusly sped up our evolution with perhaps 1 million years. No, I believe it's the other way around. They halted our progress and got us stuck in third density after had been multidimensional. This is a very important distinction, because if we believe that they are our creators and we owe them our intelligence and our awareness, we are on thin ice and exactly where they may want us. In order for A.A.M.I. to land, they apparently need a portal/stargate/wormhole to enter and leave. That's one of the reasons why they nuked the Sinai spaceport about 2500 BC. They did not want Marduk and his cohorts to use it, at least that's the official story, hence they were more or less trapped here on this planet. As we have noticed, there has been a lot of turmoil in the Middle East the last few decades. George H.W. Bush attacked Saddam Hussein in the early 1990s, and Hussein was taken out a decade later, although he had nothing to do with 9/11. So what is this unsettlement in the Middle East about on a higher level? It's about the old Sumerian artifact and the old libraries which were in the possession of Saddam Hussein. On an even higher level it's about who wins the Sinai spaceport, and who is going to reopen the Sinai Stargate to let the gods in. On remote, this is also what the modern Thule society is doing, as described in my earlier book, The Myth Around Supreme David Rockefeller, 2009, with the vibration from sound/music. Not all Anunnaki are bad people, but by and large, it doesn't matter. Not all Americans are bad either, although it may have looked that way in the eyes of the North Vietnamese people, when the US soldiers came storming in. The Anunnaki are part of our reality. They may have done things to us that we don't appreciate, and we don't need to fight their wars once again. What we need to do is to realize they are real, and we need to forgive them and move on, not to interact with them again at this point. I am telling people all this to spread the information, but also to ask you to use the 6 heart virtues to forgive and feel compassion for this part of ourselves. If we hold grudges against anything, it will persist until we let go. But before we let go, we need to understand what it is we need to let go of. That's why information is crucial and withholding of the same so destructive. We may also want to forgive ourselves for the involvement we may have had in creating the situation we're in, because it's all about karma now. If nothing else, it's old Atlantis revisited, and especially people who are incarnated here in the US of A today have karmic connections to Atlantis and Mu. When we forgive ourselves and others, we really do it for our own sake. Then, if something positive happens on the other side, and those we forgive somehow respond positively, that's a bonus. Still, this is not necessary for it to work. These are highly karmic times in general, not just for Americans, of course, and some people simply need to live out their karma and welcome these beings, calling them gods, or like the German Thule, die Götter. Personally, I feel I have come to terms with the karma involving this species and need to move on. I don't feel angry, revengeful, or negative towards them at all, and I don't look up to them as gods or higher beings either, and I am definitely not afraid of them. I am aware of that they will return to Earth on a probable timeline, and on that timeline it will happen in the next few generations if not earlier, but I for one want to move on, creating a timeline that is sustaining another reality, another frequency. I am not talking about escapism, I have no interest in that, because I know that if that's the case, it will come back to me, and my reality that I want will not manifest. This is why it's so important to forgive, let go, and move on and to clear our karma. We have a huge karmic connection with these beings on a mass consciousness scale. Those who are fighting over the Stargate to win the gods over are playing the same old game over again, repeating what should already be left behind as experience. But like I said, these are highly karmic times. In this time period, where timelines merge and time is speeding up, we are like magnets for experiences in our perceived past and future that are yet not fully lived out and completed. The Pleiadians go so far as to say that the Anunnaki are drawn back here at this time because of the divine plan. Marciniak 1992, Bringers of the Dawn, p. 34. Contrary to the information the A.A.M.I. ambassador told LPGC in a linked plenum meeting, that they are coming to rescue humankind, the Pleiadians go on saying. The creator gods, the A.A.M.I. Wes comment, are coming back to raid you again because they don't want to starve, they understand that there is system busting going on through you, so they are here to create greater havoc and fear, to fight once again for this territory. Their food source is important to them. They are losing control of the planet, so they are going back to their prime portal in the Middle East, where their nest is located underneath the ground, to create fear and chaos. The original planners wish to bring freedom of choice with respect to frequency back to this planet. The gods who have been in charge here for this last period of evolution use frequency modulation and do not allow freedom of choice. They rob your psychic energy by giving you a false picture of reality in every way that you could possibly image. We are not saying these gods are bad. We are simply informing you of events that take place and of how innocently you become involved in these events. You do not realize that these situations are setups to get you to think or feel a certain way and to vibrate with a certain consciousness. Marciniak 1992, Bringers of the Dawn, p. 34. This was back in 1992, and what the Pleiadians said then is slowly but surely happening. Which version are we supposed to believe? That of the ambassador, or that of the Pleiadians? They pretty much contradict each other. Well, for me the choice is fairly easy. If you want to investigate a person, you look at his/her background, which includes patterns and reoccurring events. If we look at the Anunnaki and their involvement on Earth, the patterns and recurring events are not flattering to say the least. I published a summary of Sitchin's translations in earlier papers, but everyone really needs to read the whole series of books to get the picture, although The Wars of Gods and Men is shocking enough. These gods were ruthless, lacking all traces of compassion, understanding of others, and love. They chopped off each other's penises and testicles so the perceived enemies within their own lines could not mass produce any more, and they are responsible for the murder and genocide of the human race many times over. So, is it possible that they come back here to clear their karma? It's certainly possible that this is what they intend, but from the intelligence gathering on them it's highly unlikely that they understand the scope of what they're up for. Their karma has yet to hit them, and I do not want to be around them while they are playing it out. The wars, my friends, that they were so fast to create in the past, are not over. Those creator gods who rearranged the human species are returning. Some of them are already here, emphasis not in original, Marciniak 1992, Bringers of the Dawn, p.25. The Pleiadians told us already in 1992 about the 300+ Anunnaki on the planet right now, something LPGC and others found out later. Here is more from what I feel and believe is very close to the true story of ancient times. The creator gods who have been ruling this planet have the ability to become physical, though mostly they exist in other dimensions. They keep Earth in a certain vibrational frequency while they create emotional trauma to nourish themselves. The food for some beings is consciousness. Your emotions are food for others. Before the raid, you had tremendous abilities. The original biogenetic example of the human was given incredible information, was interdimensional, and could do many things. When those creator gods raided, they found that the local species knew too much. The local species had abilities that were too much like those who were passing themselves off as God. Marciniak 1992, Bringers of the Dawn, pages 26. 12. Pain and sex and pornography addiction. The Anunnaki created great stigma in humanity by punishing us. We still do this with our own children. When we don't know better, we punish them to get our will instead of having them work with us to create effects on a higher, more positive level. Just like here on Earth, the visitors created hierarchies to punish. That was their service to self way of manipulating reality, and in our usual manner, we copied what the gods did and we got hierarchies on Earth as well to control and punish those we thought were less worthy. Pain got into the picture, and because no one wants to experience pain, we became afraid of being punished, and when the gods started using humans for sexual pleasure, which included pain, we have the following three attributes: pain, sex, and fear. Branching out from this, we now have pornography, child pornography, sodomy, and sadism/masochism. Sex, which was originally the stargate to the cosmos and the tight connection between two human beings, spiritually and physically, has now become perverted and associated with pain and something bad. In certain religions they are even telling us that sex is very sinful and should only be done in dark rooms, under the cover, with the purpose to create children. This is very destructive thinking, instigated by very sick and degraded people. Today, it's culminated with all these government people and others in respected positions in society, who have been busted with child pornography, incest, sex with minor of both sexes, sex slave trade, and the list goes on. We're once again back to Atlantis, where this was common trade as well, when the gods were still here and practiced all this in abundance. We learned from our masters. We are sexual beings and we need sex, not only to reproduce. The need for sex is embedded within our DNA. We can suppress it, but when we do, we usually don't do it easily, and if we manage, it feels like a sacrifice. Some people, due to cultural beliefs, think one should stay in a monogamous relationship and/or marriage with an intention to stay with the same life partner until we die, when possible. This is a very noble thought, and if it works out, it's probably a very good thing. You get to know the partner in and out, and if you have the right attitude to sex and know what it does on higher frequencies, you can reach the heavens together by experimenting with it. Your energies will merge with time, and not only during the sex act, and you have the chance to grow tremendously together. However, here is the catch. Societies which value marriage before everything else and look down upon divorce and relationships without being married contribute to the old pain and sex punishment doctrine. There are a high percentage of people in marriages who don't have sex anymore because they don't love each other, or they've grown away from each other. They still stay together, even when the children are grown, because they're supposed to. Due to their belief in this, they become sexually frustrated, feel they miss out, and at the same time have bad conscience why they don't have sex with their partner, pain and sex. Instead, when we feel we have grown in different directions and nothing can be done to turn it around, we must move on. It is the same thing that is happening on a global scale right now, the old must die to give birth to the new. We are here to experience life in 3D and not to get stuck without learning. Find a new partner who meets your frequency and start anew. All breakups are painful and heartbreaking on different levels, but the reward in the long run is well worth it. Believe me, I talk from experience. When two people no longer match each other's frequencies and the person with the lower frequency is unwilling to learn, consider that marriage over and move on. Then we have the category of people who live in a society which values monogamy, but they want to break the pattern and have sex with different people while still being married, even engage in group sex. This was quite common in the 1970s. It's good to break patterns and experience something new to see where it leads to. However, old values started kicking in after a while, and jealousy came into the picture, not to speak of STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. Many kept a straight face, pretending to feel good about the promiscuous behavior all around them, when in fact they felt more and more lonely and lesser loved. People never got the chance to grow together and feel safety and stability with each other when everything was just casual and there was very little genuine caring involved. One of the most destructive thing we can do is to engage ourselves in pornography. Unfortunately, it's everywhere in the Western culture, and it is addictive. People who've started seem to not be able to stop using it, and with time it becomes more important than having sex with a partner. Pornography addiction skyrocketed because of the internet. Not only is it addictive, messes up our sex lives, separate ourselves sexually from others, but it is also of such low vibration that the user and/or abuser stands a big chance to be subjected to entity, demon, possession. Bodiless beings in the lower astral planes love the sexual energies and to experience them, because you need a body to do it. The user of pornography, when he gets sexually aroused and gets an orgasm, they open up portals through which these lower astral entities can enter and attach, just like black magicians attach entities through certain magic rituals, when they open portals for powerful demons to come in. At least the magicians know what they're doing, most of the time, but the pornography user normally doesn't. The attached entity then uses the mind/body of the person who uses pornography and makes it into an addiction. It can become very destructive and degraded after a while. So, for the sake of the growth of your biomind and spiritual awareness, stay out of that and find fulfillment in other ways. Whether you have a partner or not, it's nothing wrong with masturbating, but don't do it while looking at pornography. Other cultures are used to having sex with anybody at any time, whenever they feel like it. Children or adults doesn't matter. If a child is old enough to have sexual feelings, it's okay to experiment. This is more common in tribes who live outside of our type of society. They have a more genuine caring and love for each other as a group, tribe, and can still feel the closeness with their partner. I bring all these different beliefs up, because that's all they are, beliefs. But when you put a belief system there for others to adopt and insert pain and fear into it, you will get serious problems. The Anunnaki knew this too well, and used it both on us and within their own hierarchies. In this today's world of functional insanity, people in Congress, the Senate, the office of the presidency, or the house of the Pope go to work in the morning and watch porn on the internet, physically abuse fellow employees or children sexually without thinking twice about it, believing they will never get caught. On the other end of the spectrum we have the common people who believe these insane persons who are supposed to lead our nations and our religious institutions are working for the best of humanity. Although the blinders slowly come off many people's eyes, it's still common belief. We cannot discern who is the bad guy and who is the good guy anymore. Way back in ancient days, when we chose leaders of a tribe or a smaller community, we chose them by reading their energy fields, not by how slick they were with their tongues and who could read a pre-written manuscript and who couldn't. We have suppressed our psychic abilities and forgotten how to be multidimensional. We once again need to learn how to read energy fields and stop electing people to represent us who are functionally insane. Then, when our liberties are taken away, one by one, we can't really blame them, because we were the ones who elected them. They just do what they intended to do in the first place, with our blessings. I know that not everybody in high position is elected, but we placed them there anyway through our inactions. Linear time was something we agreed upon together as an experiment, but it was never meant to have such traumatic twists and turns to it. Almost immediately, we were taken advantage of and controlled by those who don't want us to evolve and become more powerful than them. Believe it or not, albeit we perceive our reality as linear, which means we have cut off most of our multidimensional existence, this 3D experience will make us very powerful once we've regained our multidimensionality. The controllers know it and want to keep us stuck in this reality for as long as it is possible, like pressing the lid down on a dish that is boiling over. Our reality is falling apart, it's easy to see. It can't sustain itself anymore, and that's because 3D reality and linear time have outlived themselves. For many of us, the experiment is over and it's time to move on. However, now there are those who are setting up the beginning of a new experiment without our consent, knowing that the inevitable is going to happen. People are going to escape from this reality no matter what the controllers try to do about it. So instead they are trapping curious souls in a new reality, which is the machine kingdom and virtual reality. This is the new prison for those who haven't had enough of entrapments already. This is the new form of control. Feel a need to be part of it? There are many young souls incarnated on Earth as well, and they are eager to take a ride through a free will 3D universe cycle, and by all means, that is what they may need to experience. There is nothing wrong with that. It's anyone's choice, but I know I'm ready to ride the phoenix and be born again out of the ashes of the old symbolic bird. That's why I am living in these times. 13. Numbers and Game Masters. I am not in need to live another cycle of time where the Anunnaki come down with our best interests in mind to create new laws to make us survive better, after we've been significantly reduced through wars, disease, man-made and natural disasters, but with the real purpose for us to keep on being minions to the gods. I don't need any more bloody sacrifices to the overlords, whether it's in form of animals or humans. I need not see how men are forced to give our women away to mate with sexually aroused aliens, who don't care if she's your wife, girlfriend, daughter, or friend. I don't need to hear my neighbors say, as long as we do what they want us to do, we're fine to make me feel better. Why do you think the gods wanted bloody sacrifices to take place? For food, of course. For food and for worship. Slice a virgin open, who has pure blood, innocent and still childish, and the gods would come to spice the sacrifice and eat. Same with animals. We are food source to them in many ways, physically and metaphysically. And blood is life force, and when blood is spilled in quantities, like in war, which is a sacrifice on a massive scale, someone's having a party, or in conjunction with fear and terror, it sometimes puts signals out through the dimensions. Same thing with the global elite and their occult human sacrifice, done on certain days with astrological significance, or based on sacred geometry numbers. They are obsessed with numbers. Why? Because numbers have meanings and power attached to them. The physical universe is built on physics, it's in the word. The zodiac's position in relation to Earth affects us here, and if you know the numbers and can add, you know when to do what to get the greatest effect. You don't learn these things in school. Here's a little exercise you may, or may not have heard of before. This one only works for this year, 2011. Take the last 2 digits of your birth year. If you're born in 1965, you take 65. Add these 2 digits to the age you're going to be this year in 2011. Let's say you're going to be 46, so that would be 65 plus 46 equals 111. It doesn't matter what year you're born and how old you're going to be, it's going to add up to 111 for everybody on this planet. The numbers themselves create a signature. The global elite love this number, and it's also said to be the number of Lucifer, the fallen angel, or Ea, the Enki in the Sumerian records. 1 is also the beginning, but you can't have a beginning, a 1, without a 0, the 1 is the phallus and the 0 is the womb. 3 ones add up to 3, which creates equilibrium, balance, and is also a Christian number, the Trinity. When you start playing around with numbers, you hear words that are telling a story. So, from 111 we get e.g. Trinity, male energy, Lucifer, and there is more. In this point in this sort of code is enveloping the planet. A mathematician would discover the numbers and find it to be a phenomenon and ask him/herself what are the odds for this to happen, etc., but it has to do with game masters and master numbers, and yes they do mean something and can be used both for predictions and other purposes. So let's join in with the mathematician here and ask ourselves, what are the odds for this numeric combination to happen to 7 billion people at the same time? Also, it happens just in time for the alignment with the galactic center and the end of the nanosecond. We created the numbers on this planet, these are Arabic numbers, symbolizing a beginning, a continuation, and an end. But little do we understand how something like this can take off and create the most mysterious effects. Rest assured there is a bigger hand at play here as well. Game masters are often orchestrating reality in a numeric fashion. How many of you have, like myself, often found yourselves looking at the clock at exactly 3:33, 1:11, 7:11, 9:11, 3:45, 4:44 etc. What are the odds for that? Especially when it happens frequently, as it may during the nanosecond. It's the play with higher consciousness and we are now on a higher level of the game. When these things occur in your life, smile and say hello. I noticed, and I greet you. What can I learn from this? What can you teach me? And see what comes back at you. If you ask, you always get an answer in one form or another. Be perceptive. 14. Remote viewing within the military. I started this journey with the physics papers, and one of the first things I mentioned there was remote viewing. This is a big deal within the military, and Dr. A.R. Borden, before he left, was the executive director of the American Association of Remote Viewers 8, which means he was in charge of training people such as Ingo Swann and Harold E. Putinoff, both former OT3 Scientologists. I am not implying that Dr. Borden was a Scientologist, because he never was, but OT3 Scientologists especially, were trained in remote viewing by L. Ron Hubbard in the late 1960s early 1970s and seemed to be doing well once they defected from the church and were recruited by the CIA and the military. Remote viewing, as we have discussed earlier, is much more sophisticated today among rogue scientists like the LPGC, and I am not sure how much it has advanced in the government the last 40 years. Apparently, according to a Pleiadian lecture, Awakening to the Sun, August 13 and 14, 2010, CD number 2, track 7 to 8, remote viewers do no longer have to RV, remote view, into the future, because ETS have given them devices through the TTP, Technology Transfer Programs, which can show the future similar to what Galadriel did in J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, but instead of using a well, they now use a little device they flip over in their hand and it shows a screen, visualizing the future. This device has gained some status within the CIA and the military, and it's now being used more and more. However, these people are like children playing with power tools they don't understand the first thing about. The future they are seeing is one version of it, and often the version they want to see, or the version they fear. The ETS who gave them this device, and the Pleiadians are implying, covertly, that it's the earthbound Anunnaki, didn't do it to help us out. If you think about it, it's quite a dangerous device. If the people who watch the screen project a future that is not necessarily going to happen, they could make it happen. Atlantis Revisited. 15. How do we counter the global elite and the hostile ET presence? In November-December of 1998, I launched an website which became very popular. It is still online today, called Illuminati News, http://illuminati-news.com/right-. It's a giant database, describing the reality we live in, who is in charge, what they are in charge over, what they want for the future of mankind, their ET involvement, the corruption within the music and art industries, the past, which built up to the present we now live in, and much more. It's a mix of my own articles and that of others I've found of great value, collected over time and posted there. By reading from the articles, the reader learns more and more about the world around them, things never told in the media, in school, or in mainstream society. Not only because of my website, but thanks to thousands of others on the internet, and books that have been written by very conscious authors, people have woken up. The problem has always been that when people start realizing they've been taken advantage of and deceived and lied to by those they trusted, they sometimes become very angry. They want to go out and demonstrate, build militia groups whose purpose is to either kill government officials or infiltrate governments from within, or peaceful groups who want to find peaceful solutions to the problems. This is understandable, people want to do something about it. However, many good souls have played right into the hands of the global elite, unwittingly. People who demonstrate in the street are following global elite protocol. Then the police force can provoke the demonstrators and create a fight, and the media pick up on it and report about violent demonstrations outside the White House. It also shows it's useless to protest. The purpose is to create apathy, so people say that demonstrations don't work, there's nothing we can do. Others are overtly violent in their attempts to overthrow the oppressors. They create an even worse effect and can even provoke martial law if the government think it's appropriate. What most people who get involved in resistance groups like these mentioned above are not aware of that many of them are created and/or infiltrated by something called agent provocateurs, who pretend to be against the government, but are of the government, and they gather people together who could be a potential danger to the current order. It's a perfect way to get the names of these people and be aware of their whereabouts. I would say there is no resistance group of any importance that is not infiltrated by agent provocateurs. These agents may even suggest that the group uses direct violence against government officials, and before the group is acting out, the same agent is warning the persons the group is attacking and also make sure that police and military is ready to take counter-actions. Afterwards, all group members could potentially be tracked down and arrested. We can go on, but people want to know what to do about all this. How do we fight it? Is the question I get the most. My answer is simple: don't fight what you don't want, instead, create what you want. If you resist something, whether you fight it physically or in your mind, you will make what you resist even stronger. The solution is to acknowledge that negativity is there, but instead of fighting it, you focus entirely on what you want and start creating that instead. This is the ultimate solution. You can't fight for peace. I think it was David Icke who said, "You peace for peace." He is absolutely right. It's nothing strange with this. If you think it's not working, think again. This is energy at work, it's science. You attract what you put your attention on, it's as easy as that. Have you ever sat in a break room together with a team of co-workers? They often discuss what they read in the paper the same morning, and it's more often than not about war, terror, criminality, and other negative news. They all think it's horrible, and there is always someone saying, "Look what this world has come to," or "What a horrible world we live in." The truth is that we live in it because we project it on a mass scale. This is why the media are there in the first place. They keep the reality in place that the global elite want. And we continue projecting their visions by agreeing upon their reality. Instead, the discussion in the break room could go, see what they try to create for us? Fortunately, I am not going to agree with that sort of thing. It is not happening in my reality, so I am just going to continue creating mine and let them play their games. I'm not going to be part of it by spreading their lies and terror around and solidify them. 15.1 David and Goliath. We have to cruise smartly. I have learned by practice how to create my own reality within myself and a safe environment around me. I feel like a big rock in a stormy ocean, and this rock is growing to become a mountain. Don't think you can fight the forces that are coming, and the ones that are here. They are way too powerful, we are not prepared for that, and like I said in the earlier section, it's not the solution anyway. We would feel like David in the biblical story of David and Goliath. Not only are many of these being giants from our perspective, but they are also much better than us to manage energy and light in particular. This is why it's so important for all of us to alter our reality so we can dance between the vibrations of frequency, or flip into the reality we want to experience. The era of worship has to stop. Worshipping gods have been one of the roots to all evil. There is no God to worship, the only God there is us in our unity and oneness with Cosmos, the Multiverse, and the Prime Creator, of whom we are extensions. Is there something bigger than the Prime Creator? Actually, there probably is. The Prime Creator, as we see it, is still learning. Even it, and we, may be part of something even bigger, which in its turn is part of something bigger and so on. It's logical, because that's how everything seems to be structured in the multiverse. We are now able to perceive in all that is, whom we are part of, but if we can perceive it, it's not big enough. There is most certainly something bigger than the Prime Creator, which we can't understand on our level of consciousness. Our task now is to build our reality from inside, and not as receptors of the outside reality, the hologram created by other selves, by agreements and deception. The truth is inside and always has been. Once you have been able to consciously build your inner world, you will find happiness in yourself and excitement, hope, unconditional love, light and understanding. Then use your insights when you are operating in the outer world, and you will inspire others. This is the ultimate service to others. Why? Because of the ripple effect. You will spread your energies exponentially, and many will pick up on them, consciously or subconsciously, but you will be the spark to their own awakening. Be the keeper of frequency, the stable rock in the stormy ocean no matter what is happening in the outside world. This is extremely important. Don't let bad news bring you down. It is part of the initiation not to take in negativity that is manufactured to bring you down, and it's crucial for ascension that you learn this. Train yourself to do it every hour of the day. To be able to, you first need to have confidence in yourself and what it is you're building. While you learn, you will be operating more on light and love, light being the frequency of information and love that of creation. You achieve stability in this by knowing and understanding who you are, and that you are capable of creating worlds and realities inside yourself, and these images and energies can be shared with others by you just being yourself. This is not science fiction, it's how we build a new world.